It's the Digital Babble with your host, Flipper. Colorful commentary on your photography. Seen on fingerlakes1.com.
Hey everybody, it's the Digital Babble here, live on fingerlakes1.com, fingerlakes1.tv. Hey, there's Oscar already. And we are a photography and Photoshop talk show. And we talk about photography, we review your photos, we do some critiquing, we do some photoshopping, we do some education, whatever comes to mind, I guess. And that this week is no different, because this week I'm going to wing it quite interestingly. So I'm going to start off just by saying we are the Digital Babble. It is a talk show. You can email your photos in if you want us to review them or work on them in Photoshop, see what we'll do with them. Just by emailing us at thedigitalbabble@gmail.com. And we'll take your photos. We won't use your name, but we do appreciate a name and where the photo was taken, or a caption or where it was taken or whatever. And we'll review the critique it and so on and so forth. So we also take your photography questions. If you're having problems getting a particular shot, please feel free to give us an email and I will answer it on the next week's show. Sometimes I need to research it a little bit and figure out exactly what you were doing, but send in a photo. Hey, I'm trying to capture this. How do I get this better? How do I do that better? Feel free, because what we'll do is we'll actually look at it and roll it around and kind of say, okay, this is how we fix it. So speaking of questions, we have one question this week, which was posed by a listener, and it basically was, Flipper, how do you produce a show with all the different moving parts and, you're talking on, camera, and then you're moving stuff around and you're doing stuff. I think that's just so cool, and I just want a little insight of how you do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can actually use the host and guest camera, and I'm going to show you my setup here in studio. And this is not the studio at Finger Lakes 1, this is Studio B, which is actually in my house. So this is kind of a talk show. It originally started off as a talk show or a audio studio, now has turned into a video talk show studio. And really, we're not doing anything in high dev yet, but the cameras are capable of fairly decent quality video. So real quick, let's answer the question. So you want to see what we do. So we have a couple pieces of software that are running in the background that helps keep the show running and streaming right live out to the internet. So you're probably watching us on fingerlakes1.tv or fingerlakes1.com live if you're watching right now. If you're not watching right now, you're probably watching us right through YouTube. So the recorded show, the file gets then uploaded to YouTube, keyword tagged, and then posted on our websites. If you want to go check out our website, thank you, just reminded me, tdbny.com, and you can go check that out. So let's see if we can get this to happen. So I'm going to click over, and all I'm doing is I'm using the producer tool that I have to switch camera views. So now what you're seeing is probably a side view of me. Hi. And you're seeing a guest camera. And I think that is the one way over there. So JJ is going to be mad at me for Saturday on Tech Talk because I'm going to move his camera. So we're just going to take the camera and we're going to rotate him around. And no, don't get sick on me here. Okay, so, well, I guess I'm going to have to pull it all the way around here. Let's see. Give me 1 second. We'll go back that way. And we will grab the camera right out of the clip. Oops. Come on. All right. All right. I sound like P-Spot now. So as I'm looking, you're looking at me on the one side view. This camera now is looking at my computer setup. And this is what I have literally set up as just a computer. I've got a compressor. I've got a mixing board. And a bunch of mics. Originally, this was, like I said, an audio studio that was going to be used to do voiceover work and maybe just do some like radio programming for like NPR. And Finger Lakes 1 approached us and said, hey, do some shows. All right, great. Well, let's do it. So, and since they did that, we've expanded on the studio quite a bit with video and all sorts of things. So we got video. We now have a producer software. And nothing too fancy, nothing too special. I mean, the whole setup's probably, roughly between $1,000 and $2,000. So you could even set up your own studio or your own YouTube studio at home if you wanted to spend the money and buy the pieces of software and make it work. So if you notice, when I had the screen up, I had Photoshop up as well. So Photoshop's always running for me, so that when I'm here on the Digital Babble, if I have 3 images that I'm reviewing, or if I'm reviewing your images, I can actually take them and pull them in and work on them live on screen, and it records the video as I work on them, and then the mics record the audio as I talk. So that is pretty much the whole studio, and it's very simple. I mean, it could be easily made portable. So for anybody that's interested in doing live remotes, you could easily do live remotes if you have an internet connection, a laptop, and maybe a mixing board and some mics and a couple video cams. Really a doable project. So the second part of that question, the second part of that email was, in fact, the fact that could you take and, you know, change the cameras, and what do you like for cameras? Do you think the GoPros are good? Do you think the... I'm really not a video guy. I'm really not. I know the basics, and I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm really not. I know HD, you know, 1920 by 1080 is your standard wide format. You know, if you want your frames per second at least 30, you know, it's just all those little things there. I'm really not big in it. So I can't really answer your question on like how to get high definition TV quality video. But I can tell you, you can easily set up some interesting studio stuff with just a few lights, a few webcams if you want webcams, if you get the higher definition webcams. And of course, you got to have a mascot like Oscar. So there's Oscar. How you doing, big guy? And he keeps bugging me tonight. He seems to be in a loving mood. So, but that's okay. I'm winging it tonight. So we can definitely talk with Oscar later if we have to. So, but that's the studio setup. And the thing is that the same principles apply in photography as well when you're doing portrait lighting. One of the big things we haven't done in this studio yet is fix the lighting for, you know, the shiny spot in my head, or, you know, when you're watching Tech Talk on the weekends, you know, the glare off of somebody's glasses or some other thing. So the lighting really needs to be fixed, you know, some better lighting. But for being a home studio, this is pretty amazing. I think it's pretty great myself. I'm tooting my own horn. I know, go figure, right? But the big thing is that, you know, if you can imagine it, you can do it. And this is the same thing applies to photography. A lot of people ask, well, how did you think of this shot? How did you come out with this portrait for this senior? How did you bring this element to your photography? And here's really the thing. It comes down to just letting your brain work. You know, ask yourself questions. You know, ask yourself, if I was a senior, what kind of portraits would I want? You know, go out and get inspired by other people. And you know something, this has always been a big debatable question about copying and everything. Go out and look at magazines. Go out and look at wedding magazines if you're a wedding photographer. Go out and look at what other people are doing. Go out and, you know, check what people are done or have done or will do or whatever. And at first, you might try to copy the style. Okay? This is where a lot of photographers kind of split right there when you say copying. You might copy the style, and I think that's very flattering with a lot of people, especially, hey, listen, somebody thought that some of my work was so awesome that they want to mimic me. Great. Mimicking is fine. I have no problem. Which is copying. It's a basic form of copying. The thing that I don't want to see is I don't want somebody to not only mimic me, but then try to steal my identity and become me. So that's really the key that I think I split on. Once they start saying, hey, well, I'm better than, or I am this then, or whatever, because I copied you, now I got a problem with them. But starting out, go look at some of the magazines. I really like this pose. Rip it out of the magazine if you own the magazine. Don't rip it out if you don't. So, but photocopy it or whatever. But rip it out of a magazine and start building your scrapbook of ideas, okay? And then be like, wow, I want to get that shot. I want to figure out how to make that shot. And then get creative and start talking to yourself in your head. I mean, that is part of the whole creative process, is being slightly off the edge there, right? So, I really want to get this picture. I really want a portrait with Mr. Woody. Okay. I really want to make the lighting this. I want the lighting over here. I want the lighting down here. It's not always just about making decisions, but it's also more about just thinking through it and going, what if this, what if that? And that's really the creative process. The same thing goes for building a studio or working on anything creative, drawing, painting, anything where you can get creative. Ask yourself the what if question. And if you ask yourself the what if question and you don't answer back, I definitely think you should check your pulse. And the big thing comes down to is make it happen. Sit down and make it happen. Sit down and just have fun with it. Spend a few minutes a day doing something like that, going, geez, what if I did this? What if I did that? Write the ideas down. Go out and try it. So, that being said, there's my philosophical statement for the day. So, trying to give you a little piece of my philosophy. Hey, if you got a piece of philosophy, give us an email at thedigitalbabble@gmail.com. And we'll be sure to get it on. Get your questions in, too. Get your photos in, because that's really what this show is. The same concept goes for a lot of different shows here. I think one of the big things, especially my shows that I've done, so you'll see me on the Digital Babble, you'll also see me on Tech Talk. Two of the biggest things that I like doing is I like interaction with people. I want the interaction. I want to be able to talk to you and work with you and then make it entertaining with you and have fun. And that's really the key. And that's the same thing here. If you send in your photos, I promise I'm really a nice person for the most part. But let's talk. Let's talk about your photos. Let's bring your photos in. Let's review them. I'm really hoping some of the professional photographers around the area would like to come on the show and share some of their techniques and stuff. So again, it's a call to arms. If somebody's got some ideas, want to come in for an interview, I'm more than happy. Send me an email. So anyhow, it's fall. It's fall. Fall has started. Fall has flung. Fall is something. So fall foliage. We're getting ready to do a lot of fall foliage things, like go out and shoot photos, go out for rides on back roads, look at all the changing leaves. And if you're not, you probably got your head stuck in your iPhone. But if you are getting your head out of that iPhone and getting out there and taking some photos, there are some great tips and some great things that you need to be aware of. And that's what this week's show is going to be about. And we're going to run through them real quick and give you some pointers on fall foliage and timing and where to go and what to do and all that good jazz. So let's get started. So, of course, you got to grab your camera. It doesn't matter what kind of camera it is. Well, even an iPhone will work. But the thing is that you're going to have to think about the technique you want to use to capture the scenery that you're going to see. So, that being said, I personally like traveling light, especially if you're hiking, if you're going to be out in a hilly area, or if you're going to be at a state park or a waterfalls where you're going to be going up and down a lot. Lugging around 10 pounds of camera is not fun. But lugging around 2 pounds of camera ain't too bad. So keep that in mind. Travel light if you can. A lot of these point and shoots, like this Nikon one that I have up on the screen here, is an excellent camera to add a polarizer to. So talking about polarizers, one of the big things for fall foliage, I can't even say it, foliage. I'm hooked on phonics. How about you? Is to grab a polarizer, and I don't think I downloaded a picture of a polarizer. So a polarizer basically is just a filter that attaches to the front of that camera. And what that does is it polarizes the light. So I just got to find the image of the polarizing light. I guess I don't have one. Wow, I am batting zero today. Okay. So, basically, a polarizer will take and line up the light waves. And that's the easiest way I can describe it. There is more technical ways. But it basically, if you're looking at light waves, you have an X and a Y coordinate. So you got light waves are vibrating on the Y and light waves are vibrating on the X. What the polarizer does is eliminates one side or the other to give you a single frequency of light. So the polarizer will then eliminate some light and only allow certain light through. And it's directional in the sense. Okay, so we have a example here about polarizers and the change in what the image looks like by polarizing it. As you can see on the example on the screen, on the left is a lighter colored sky. The shadows are okay. They're a little dark, a little heavy on the contrast. Not bad. But all in all, it's a decent picture. Take that same picture, take that same exposure, that same light, and you put a polarizer on it, and you get the image on the right. It deepens the sky, especially blue sky. It will take blue skies and make it dark blue. It will take shadows and lighten the shadows up just ever so slightly because you're getting rid of part of the light in the shadows. So sometimes it will actually allow you to see into the shadows or get more details in the shadows. You can see this on the right image up by the house. You can actually see more detail up by that house than you can without the polarizer. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing that a polarizer absolutely amazingly does is it takes your fall foliage shots and enhances the color. So your yellows, your reds, your greens, your browns, everything, if you take the polarizer and turn it as you're looking through the camera to see what the changes are, will enhance the color. So you turn it until you get the polarized light for that color, and that color will almost pop off the page. And that's one of the most amazing things about a polarizer, is that you can make those colors pop off the page. Another filter to have in your handy little bag of tricks to take with you on fall foliage shots. Holy cow, I am really hooked on phonics and stumbling over that word. Is an enhancer filter. And what an enhancer filter is a slightly red filter that actually takes and it deepens, it filters the red color and makes it a little bit more enhanced. So like instead of seeing like pinkish red, it sees deep dark red. Instead of seeing just blue, it deepens the blue and brings it more closer or darker so that it's more enhanced. Those you just screw on and shoot. There's no turning it like a circular polarizer. And you can get some really amazing color that, you know, typically you wouldn't get just by pulling up and pointing and shooting and going. So that's another big thing, an enhancing filter. A lot of these point and shoot cameras and SLRs, you can get all these filters. You can go check out your local camera shop, you know, like the Village Camera here in Seneca Falls, or you can go online because you can always find almost everything online, right? So you can always go online and go check B&H Photo Video, or you can go check Adorama or one of the other big guys, and I'm sure they can either A, find it, or B, get it. So, you know, check those out if you want to get your enhancing filter or your polarizer filter. So here's another great example of a polarizer effect, okay, is the fact that you can see through glare or reflections. By polarizing the light, you're only allowing the light from a certain frequency orientation to come through. So inside the car, you're shooting through the glass, or maybe not, you're shooting through the glass to see inside the car. If you don't have a polarizer and the light is just reflecting off of the car, you might not see what's in the car. But if you put a polarizer on, it will see all the way into the car and tell you or show you what's inside. So as you can see, the top part is with a polarizer, the bottom part is without a polarizer. You'll still get reflections, but you don't get that almost mirror-like reflection. Same thing applies for water, that glassy look on water. You can take and, you know, use a circular polarizer and turn it one way or the other until you see down inside the water, and then you can see the fish inside the water if they're up at the surface, or you can see the seaweed, or you can see whatever. Or maybe you are looking for the glassy look. Turn it the other way until you get the glassy look, and it's easy to filter out one side or the other of that type of light. So again, polarizers are an amazing thing to have in your camera bag. I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know if tablets, iPhones, iPads, Androids, Windows phones, I don't think any of the phone cameras actually have attachment polarizers. I could be wrong, but you could check, one of the big guys out there, they might have like a case that you can put like attach a filter to it and add filtering to your iPhone or iPad. Hi, Oscar. Say hi again. All right, you got to go over here. Bye-bye. Whoops. So, polarizer, amazing. The next thing that I would probably say that you'd want to have, whoops, wrong one, is a tripod or a monopod. All right, come on, Oscar. A tripod or a monopod will enhance your photos a lot because of what they do. They steady the camera, they get it off your hand so that you're not shaking the camera as you're taking the shot. So one, you'll get clearer pictures, and two, if you're using a tripod, I've also found this to be true, is that it makes you think where you're standing. Okay? So that being said, I don't know how many times I've almost gone down into a creek or fallen off because I stopped paying attention to where I was and only paid attention to what I was shooting. And that is always a good safety tip for anybody taking photos, and I don't care whether it's with any device. Pay attention to where you are before you pay attention to what you're shooting, because there's always that chance you're going to go off that cliff. And God knows I've done that a couple times and I've lived. So, there you go, right? So, tripod does two things in my mind. It steadies the camera and it makes you think of where you're putting your camera. Also slows you down for taking the shots. That way it gives you a chance to think, hey, do I really like this shot? Do I not like this shot? Do I really like where I'm aiming? Do I like the composition? Do I like the color? Do I like the whatever else there is? Okay. Tripods usually do that. Just because you have to set it up and then put the camera on. You could always leave them somewhat set up, but it still makes you think. It makes you stop. You're not just pulling up and firing away. So let's see. So I personally like that first set of tripod legs here. This is a Gorilla Pod. They're really neat for lightweight cameras. So like saying if you got a point and shoot, or if you got an iPhone, or you got whatever, you can attach this to a tree branch and shoot from a tree branch. You can just put it on the ground. You can put it on some rocks. You can shape it so it balances. I mean, there's so many different things you can do because the legs are bendable, but not retractable. So what's there is there. Okay, I've used a Gorilla Pod several times to set up a small point and shoot to take shots every 10 minutes or 10 seconds to take scenery shots as the time throughout the day changes to see what the best it looks like. So that's kind of an interesting way of doing it, is using Gorilla Pod. Now, a standard tripod, such as this guy here, this is a standard set of tripod legs. I like this set particularly because of two features. One, there's foam grips on each of the legs so that no matter what leg you pick the camera up with, you got a good grip. Two, all the legs that are extendable, they're extendable legs, so you can get, I think, 46 inches out of it. They're twists, so they twist lock. So you twist it, pull it out, twist it, pull it out, and there's your two sections of tripod legs. It's not like my set of tripod that I got a long time ago where they're all flip locks. So you got to flip it open, pull the leg out where you want it, flip it closed. Sometimes that lock's good, sometimes it doesn't. And I've had where I'm just about ready to shoot and the leg gives way and I have to catch the camera. So, that's something to keep in mind if you like twist lock or you don't like twist lock. Whatever, teach their own. Go check out the products because it's out there. But a good set of tripod legs and a pan tilt zoom head or a ball head are excellent choices for, especially when you're going out doing fall foliage. I like a ball head because a ball head allows you to adjust like 1 degree, 2 degrees left or right, where a pan and tilt head, there is no left or right tilt. It's just twist and vertical. And that's all you get. You don't get this kind of whole 360 degree little correction here, little correction there. If you want to correct things on a pan and tilt, you actually got to adjust the legs. So keep that in mind. All this kitty hair over here. Love Oscar to death, but sometimes he's shedding so bad it's weird. So last but not least is the monopod. Monopods are excellent companions for out hiking, for out taking photos, out just, you can use it anywhere just to get some extra support for your camera so you're not hand holding your camera. I've seen some monopods with ball heads attached to them. I've seen them with pan and tilt heads. I've seen them where you just attach the camera right directly to the monopod. Monopods are usually lightweight. They usually have a rubber handle or a foam handle, so you got a good grip. It also has a wrist strap usually, so you double the monopod as not only a monopod, but also as possibly a hiking stick. So monopods are excellent for taking along hiking, going to state parks, or going to parks, or going out in the wilderness and shooting birds or whatever else, because they're easy to set up and get aimed quickly, more quickly than tripods. So keep that in mind. So some great examples of fall foliage. Foliage. Wow. I am really goofing that word up. Okay. This actually was, I took a trip a few years ago and we went out to the Catskill Mountains because the weatherman told us that it was fall foliage time up in the Catskills. So why don't you get up here and take some fall foliage? And do you see colors in that? I don't. I only see a little bit of color over on the left side, but this was actually shot in it was a fall. It was starting to get dusk. You can see the dusk colors kind of up in the mountains, but this is really a nice photo. I think it's very nice and peaceful. The picket fence gives us a reference to the shape, so your brain kind of fills in the rest of the picture. It's a farmland, of course. You got some foreground, you got some really background, and then you got middle ground. There's a lot of different elements to this photo. The same thing can happen with your photos. So just make sure to not always listen to the weatherman. Don't know why I did that year, but I did. And as you can see, everything was greener than green. And I think it was October 5th or 7th. I can't remember, but it was right into October, and it should have been changing up there, and it hadn't yet. So I didn't want to waste a trip, so I took shots of whatever I could find, and that's one of them. So fall foliage doesn't have to just be leaves. You can actually see that I have some color changing leaves here, kind of sneaking underneath the waterfalls in a couple different areas. This was taken in fall. I didn't really get too much of the leaves piece of it, but this was definitely going out in fall. Notice there's nobody waiting in the creeks or the playing in the falls and stuff. One of the best times to go out and get waterfall pictures has got to be spring and fall, when the campers and the hikers and everybody just hasn't gotten out. They haven't come out of their hibernation yet. So that's another great tip for all you people that are going out shooting waterfalls and fall leaves and fall foliage, is get out there at an off time. Don't get out there when, people are going to be like, hey, listen, I'm going to go, maybe there's some event maybe an Ironman event that they're going to go through the mountains and stuff. Try to plan it out a little bit. Planning is always one of the best things that you can do, especially when you're going on trips. And you don't have to go far either. I mean, you look at most states, but I'm going to look at like New York, central New York, the Finger Lakes areas, amazing area to get all sorts of fall colors. You could go out at any time, somebody raking leaves, and get all the different color leaves right in a pile of leaves. You can go have somebody jumping in it. You might have some fun there. There's so many different things you can do in the fall season with leaf colors and using the colors in your photography. It's really just kind of a fun season because everything is in a state of flux. Everything's changing, but you only have a short window. And one of the big things that you want to remember too, that short window of being out there when the leaves are peaking, doesn't leave you too much room for error. You got to really be ready. Ready to go. And get out there and shoot, and be ready to shoot what you're looking at. And always scouting. Scouting's always fun. Go in the summertime. Go check out I'd love to see this when it's fall foliage time. Okay, great. Well, plan it, write it down, be ready to go. Plan your trip out and get out there and take it. Just got to go do it. Nike. Now here, this is some fall foliage. So. I really like this. This was taken at Stony Brook State Park. I think it was on the Third Falls. I actually got up to the path. I hopped over the wall. I know I shouldn't have, but I just hopped. Well, I didn't hop over. My camera hopped over on a tripod made sure it was stable. I had a cable release, aimed it down, and this is kind of what I got, was this kind of neat kind of pathway kind of looking thing. Got some different colors, got some oranges, got some yellows, got some greens, a lot of leaves that already fallen. You can see that they're kind of all filtered in. That falls that I just showed you is that falls right in the middle there, down at the bottom. You can see where it kind of falls off a little bit there, and that's actually, that falls kind of in there, and that's part of it. So just for reference, and the evergreen branches and stuff is part of that one tree. So amazing things that you can do with fall colors, doing all sorts of different things you can do. You can get right into doing portraits outside. You can have a lot of family, full family portraits are great at fall time. Go rake up some leaves in the backyard, make a big hill, everybody jumps in, you set the timer for the 10 seconds. Just when it's about ready to go off, you get that last dee 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 dee, and just everybody throws some leaves up in the air and then leaves their hands up. What a great portrait. It's action, but it's portrait. It's kind of neat, something different, get creative. So you could do that. What was the other thing I was going to say about, well, fall harvesting. Amazing photos of food. Oh my God. If you don't know that I don't like food, I love food. I love just watching people pick food. There's so much out there that you can see to take photos of. You can take photos of the combines, coming through and, chewing up the hay, and you can get some really neat, action shots and industrial shots that way. You can get the fall foliage as people are walking through the parks. Maybe you're out for a park walk and you're doing some stuff, and, some people are walking. Don't take their face, just because I don't like people taking my picture, but you can always take people walking away from you in the distance as an element of that and be pretty good with it. But there's so much you can work with. There's so much out there. I was trying to think of the one thing you could do. You could do, like, go to your harvest, your local orchard or your local vegetable stand or something like that. Sometimes, those vegetable stands are packed to the brim at this point in time, and the vegetables are just falling all over the place. You can easily go get texture photos and harvest photos and food photos. And here's a cucumber, here's a tomato, here's a rutabaga. I don't know why you'd take a picture of a rutabaga, but if you did, make it a good picture. So lots to do in fall, lots to play with. And again, I'll just recap real quick. Polarizer, filter, if you got a point and shoot or an SLR. If they make one for your phone, get it. It's an excellent way to enhance your photos. But you can also enhance your photos in, you guessed it, Photoshop. So we're going to get into Photoshop and do a little bit more with some of those photos that I just showed you. So how about we hop over and we're going to go take a look at the first photo, which is that beautiful scenery with the hills and the creek and the waterfall. Actually, you're not really seeing, you're seeing the base of the waterfall. You're not seeing the upper part of the waterfall. And the trees and the color changes and all that other stuff. So here's this wonderful photo. One of the things I really don't like is I think the colors are dull. I think we can always enhance these colors. I don't like that the reds are very dull as well. I also want to do this one technique with this photo just to show you how to do a split gradient filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a gradient filter or simulate a gradient filter by everything above this line is going to get a little darker. Everything above this line is going to stay the same or get a little lighter. So that is the concept of a gradient filter or a split gradient filter, depending on your terminology that you want to use. And what you can do is on, the real thing. So let me get back here. So on your camera, you'd have a sheet of glass and then it would be split. So there'd be a filter up here that's darker, and then there would be a clear filter here. So what that does for you is that it darkens your horizon and lightens your foreground. And that's really the big thing with a split gradient or a gradient filter. And now you would shift this glass up and down accordingly to get a different effect or make it further down or further up. But in Photoshop, we can actually do some really neat stuff. We can tell it, okay, right from here up, we want the filter to happen and darken, enhance it. We can also go this way and get the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enhance the colors. I'm also going to take and do a gradient filter here as well and see what we get. And we're going to try to pop those colors right off the page and see what we end up with. So let's hop over to Photoshop. So here's Photoshop. Look at that. It's amazing. I feel like I should be like running around the studio and, you know, hey, we're all over to show Photoshop now. Okay, but we're actually in Photoshop. So here's Photoshop. Here's the picture. Let's start with some basic stuff. I'm going to zoom in, and I do apologize if my mouse controls are a little weak today or jittery. So as you can see, the colors up here are light, and as you start working back towards you, it's almost like I had some lens glare or lens flare working up at the top here. So one of the things we can do is we can enhance this with a split filter or split gradient filter or gradient filter, depending on how you want to call it. And we can do that one of two ways, okay? We can do a new fill or adjustment layer, which is the half moon. And we can do a, where is it? I missed it. Up top here, gradient. As you can see, it's white to nothing. This is the gradient right here in the box. What we're going to do is we're going to change it to black to white. Now, what we can also do, whoops, I didn't want to do that. So what we can also do here is change where, wow, I'm really having a hard time with my mouse today. So this middle triangle right here, we can take and shift it one way or the other to get more white, more dark, more light, and change where the gradient shifts, you know, where the midpoint of the gradient is. You can also take and move these opacity sliders in so that the actual gradient will change accordingly, or the color of the gradient will change accordingly. You can also do that with your colors. So you can see here that, let's try that again. I am in one of those moods today, evidently. So here's my gradient. So notice how if I move the black over here, it's mostly black with a little bit of white. If I take and move my sliders the other way, now it's going to be mostly white with a little bit of black. So I'm going to play around this until I get about where I wanted to with that filter, which is about halfway down the picture is where I want it to go completely white. So right about there. So I've now set my gradient. I've picked my colors. And you can put other colors in here. It doesn't have to be black or white. It could be like gray. It could be blue. It could be green. It could be red. It could be yellow. It could be any color. But the thing of it is that you have to remember the effect of that color is going to affect it once we change our blending, layer blending up here on the other side of, once we hit OK. So we're going to hit OK. And here's our gradient again. Do we like it this way or do we want it reversed? Do we want it back the way it was? You can dither it, which is basically it takes and it makes dot patterns to make the gradient more smooth but grainier. And then do you want it aligned with the entire layer or not? Do you want it to be straight up and down or do you want it side to side? Like so. I'm going to keep it at 90. You can also change the gradient style. But for this example, it's really going to be linear because that's exactly what a gradient filter is linear. Pretty much straight across your photo or somewhat straight across your photo. So here we go. We're going to hit OK. So here's our gradient. Notice we can't see our photo anymore. That's because our blend layer is to normal. So it's just like you took some paint over top of your first layer and put in black and white. Pardon me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this gradient layer from normal to, I'm going to just do a soft light and see what it does. Well, I like the enhancing feature up here, which kind of took away a lot of that, almost inverted what we were doing. So there's without the gradient filter. Now there's with the gradient filter. So it's almost the way I want it up here, but I really don't like the white being white. So I'm going to go back into that gradient because that's the nice thing about these adjustment layers. You can go back in and do things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the gradient and I'm going to go in here. I'm going to grab the white side here, the opacity, and change it to 0. Okay, so it's black to white, or black to white, but white's actually a transparent color at this point. So let's pick OK, and now it's changed our gradient accordingly with still not quite the way I want it. Let's try a couple more things here. You can even do colors. You know, if you want colors, that's kind of neat. You know, Blood River. Let's see if we get cancel out of this here. Let's back it up so we can see the whole picture again. Let's go back into that gradient. Let's try changing it to this, but then that looks a little better. But I want to move it this way, I think. Nope, too much. Whoops. Wow, Photoshop, you are really not making me happy today. There's my black, and then I want to bring this. Oops. A little more, a little more. Get along, little doggy. Let's go back to 50% here. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to play around with where I want that filter to end. As you can see, as I'm adjusting the layer here, you can see the change in the picture in the background. So there, it's a little more white in that area. I'm going to get a little more, maybe just a touch more, a little more right about there. Okay, so now we hit OK and OK. Now our gradient filter's in there. So basically what you're seeing is this over top of this. And you can see it's enhanced this upper area, made it a little more contrast, a little more dark. And then it's also enhanced down through a little bit of the area here. But it's only doing that much of the photo. So about halfway into the photo is where the gradient really ends. And that is basically how you do a gradient filter to enhance your skylines, or if you got some lens flare or whatever. So I like it. I'm going to keep it. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to oversaturate the colors just because I want to cheat. And I'm going to take it. I'm going to make a new hue and saturation color. Hue and saturation adjustment layer, sorry. And I'm just going to pop this up here until I feel it's good. I mean, they almost pop off the page at like 10, but let's really go. That's way too much. Let's back it off here. Back it off, back it off, back it off, back it off, back it off. Let's go 15. 15 sounds like a really good number. All right. Do I want it a little lighter, a little darker? We could always go a little darker. We could always go a little lighter. But I like it rated 0. 0 looks good. Now, do we want to shift any of the colors? Do we want to shift the colors maybe a little bit? More yellow, more red, or no shift? I'm going to keep it at 0 as well. I think I like it the way it is. I'm just kind of looking it over here and kind of giving an idea what I like and don't like about it. Okay, I'll take it. Now, what I really like about this is this could be cropped in a couple different places and get several different photos out of this. You could crop it for an 8x10. Okay, so you can crop it. Whoops, there's my 8x10, and move it just over this a little bit, and we do this and go like that, and whoops, hello. There's my 8x10 shot. That ain't too bad. That could be one 8x10 out of a series of 4 8x10s to show that picture. I'm going to edit undo. Go back in here. You could also crop for, let's get rid of the 300 DPI because I don't want to keep changing my perspective. But let's try a 5x7. So a 5x7. Well, actually, let me reverse that. These two little arrows here on the crop tool switches your perspective, you know, your hit width and height accordingly. So like if the 7 is your width and your height is 5 and you really want it the other way, you just flip it and it'll change the orientation. So this time I'm going to make it so it's a widescreen. So, you know, you can do this type of widescreen here, and you know, what's my element that I really want to show off? I think that rock is where I want to put the PowerPoint. Boom, boom, there we go. Rule of thirds. There's a little PowerPoint. I hit it. Oops, hello. Where did you go? Wow, that's bad. Edit, undo. Let's try it again here. I want to do 5" by 7" instead of pixels. Let's try that one more time. That was funny. Wrong orientation. Change the orientation. And put it on the PowerPoint. So there again is another picture and a picture and a picture and a picture, and you can do a lot of these different things and get some different feels and different looks for it. So I'm going to edit, undo. And as always, if you're going to make a print out of this, you're going to want to sharpen it. So I would probably just take and go Control-Alt-Shift-E to do a stamp layer. So it doesn't matter what your background layers are doing now. You got this top layer that's a stamp layer. And I'm just going to take and go Filter, and I'm going to go Sharpen and go Unsharpen Mask. And I'm going to enhance it a little less than what I really would like to. So I'm going to do 80%. And I'm going to reduce the radius back down to 1, just because that's a good standard. You can see a couple different areas here, and then if you move the preview and then let go, you can see the changes in the picture, not enhanced, enhanced. And that's still a little too much, I think. I'm going to bring it down probably 60% maybe. That's not bad, I guess. So there you go. Everything's enhanced. Everything's sharpened. When you print this out, your leaves are going to be sharp. Your edges are going to be sharp. Your trees are going to be sharp. Your leaves are going to be sharp. Your mountains are going to be sharp. Your trunks are going to be sharp. And everything's going to be sharp. So let's go file save this baby. Save as a JPEG and save. Okay. Yes. Okay. And let's go back to our video feed and go take a look at this image. I think this was image 1, right? So there it is. You can see up here the sun flare glare, you know, making it kind of all white up here. And I'm going to do that gradient filter here. I also enhanced the colors of the leaves. And so here's the before. Here's the after. Not too much changes, just enough to really take it and enhance it. Like here's the before. You can see the light color up top. Here's the after. Really brings out the colors, you know, darkens the colors back where they're supposed to be, balances out the entire photo. Really makes it look like a piece, an intentional piece. Enhance the colors up this way. Really made them snap off the page pretty decently. I really like this shot. You know, this is something I'd probably hang up in my house. Actually, I think this one is hanging up in my house. So there you have it. So, you know, I'm going to end the show at this point because it's pretty much time to go get ice cream one last time before the season's over. So you've been watching the Digital Babble. I'm Flipper. I'm your host for the Digital Babble every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We love your emails. We love your questions. If you got questions about photography or how to take a certain shot, please send them in to thedigitalbabble@gmail.com or go check out our website at tdbny.com. Pop over there, watch some previous shows. I've done a lot of different shows about different aspects and different things in Photoshop and different things in photography. So please go take a listen. And as I say every week, I will catch you on the flip side.
A Flipside Studio production. It's the Digital Babble. Tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on fingerlates1.com. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter.